Hi, Sophie. Hi, hello. Hello.
Hi, Michelle. Nice to see you.
Nice to you look absolutely perfect.
Really?
I didn't see sun for a very long time, and I a little bit envy because you're so tall.
No. You look glowing, but yes, you know, during the summer I did spend time outside a lot, which is the love of my life, nature. So yeah, I thank you for telling me that.
I read it in your book that this is the part of your life that you love nature. And before we start talking, I must tell you that nature is one of the most therapeutical things for mental health. This is actually the idea of talking to you and meeting with you, because now a lot of women, Ukrainian women, are watching us on my YouTube channel during our online talk and our online congress. And I will not open a big secret for you if I tell that we have been suffering from a big war in Ukraine for mostly 3 years. And we did have a lot of different periods of staying strong. And I still can focus on that. Women of Ukraine don't want to be victimized. And this is very, very important to understand. But of course, we need the support of such women like you, who are concentrated on their prioritizing of mental health, because this is the topic which is not focused a lot in our country. I read your book, and you are focused actually, and all your activities focused on women who suffered from domestic violence. And you know that I'm the ambassador of UN, which is struggling against this in our country. Eating disorder. Hello, my friend. Hello, my partner in crime. This is the problem I'm suffering for 20 years. And the problem that I can see today among Ukrainian women, that trying to stay strong for such a long time, everything you are talking about in your book, and about feeling yourself, looking for your strengths, understanding that such problems like eating disorder is the main thing you should see and should be focused on. I want you to talk about this more and more, because we need to repeat it systematically. Why did you choose this particular vector in your life, in your book, in your activity?
Masha, I think it shows me. First of all, I do want to say that for me, and I have chills just listening to you from top to bottom. If you would see my legs, they're filled with chills, because for me, you know, one woman is every woman, and every woman is one woman. And I live my life sensing that there is no difference between human beings. We all have an inherent need to connect and to be loved and to be validated. We women and you women and us women, we are not victims, but we have been growing up and being considered, you know, in ways that have led us to believe that we must deny our true nature, and that we cannot be our authentic selves as women, whether it's physically with everything that, you know, so many women are doing to their faces and bodies, because we believe we're doing it for ourselves, when in fact, we are not. We are born in a society that is teaching us to hate ourselves from a very young age. And all forms of addiction, you and I, it's eating disorders. It's true for millions of other women. It could be alcohol, dieting, relationships, sex, gambling, social media. We all have, you know, micro or bigger addictions in our lives. We all do, in some way or another, through our habits. And all forms of addictions stem from a desire and a legitimate need for emotional nourishment that did not take place. And right now, you know, this is the work of many scientists and neuroscientists and researchers and psychologists. But trauma is not just something really bad that is happening to you or that happened to you. And I know for a fact that so many women and children and men in your country are going through this on a daily chronic level, but also something that should have taken place and has not taken place. That is also trauma. So when I was writing this book, Closer Together, and I decided to tell my story about my own eating disorders, I found out along the way, and I've been a mental health advocate for 20 years, but I found out two things. First of all, mental health is not the right expression. It is one little piece of our innate wholeness, of our wild wholeness as human beings, and especially as women. We hold the nucleus of the family together. We hold the emotional load of every single family member. We carry so much on our plates trying to do it all, and we're tired, we're anxious, we're depleted, we need more support. And this is from a structural, societal problem. And then we ask ourselves, why are we suffering? Because we are adapting to an environment that is abnormal, and our brains and our bodies can no longer sustain this rhythm. This is true for us as mothers, as friends, as allies, as lovers, as working women. It's true for our kids. And it's also true for the incredible men who are our allies in this life. They're also growing up in a very narrow definition of what it means to be a man, as we are too, with what it means to be a woman. So that's the first thing that I discovered, is that the mental health expression is not enough to describe who we are as human beings, and the cause itself is not a cause. It's our universal common denominator. Whether you live in Ukraine, in China, in Japan, on Samoa Islands, wherever you are, our common universal denominator is our neurowiring, is our childhood bond of attachment, how we were raised, how we were held. And today, and by the way, I talk about this in the book, Dr. Gordon Neufeld, who was consulting with teachers in Ukraine to know how to help children who are struggling immensely with stress, especially in classrooms. He said, you put the curriculum aside and you let the children play without structure. Okay, so playfulness will help children to feel safe even when they hear the noises of war, right? The noises in their heads and the outside noises. So what we're learning here as human beings, and especially through the book that I wrote, Closer Together, and to relate it to what you are living in your country right now and have been living for quite a while, is that this chronic stress that you are in and that we are in as a world as well, right? We can address it only if we understand that there's a brain in the head, there's a brain in the heart, there's a brain in the gut, and there's how could I say this? There's a universal central nervous system holding on to all of our little nervous systems as human beings. And we feed that world with our stress levels. And it impacts us in our everyday life. Now we have to talk more about how do we regulate our nervous systems better so we can create more peace and uphold our democracies in healthier ways.
You know, Sophie, I want to tell you one interesting fact. Actually, for me, this is the shocking fact because my foundation is helping women from the front line, evacuated from there or suffered from war or being tortured or raped even. We try to help them to stabilize their psychological and mental health. And
of course,
I still can see that women suffering mentally, suffering like from all the things you describe in your book, they still feel shame about saying this. I read in your book that you also, you needed life, you needed time, you needed all your experience in life, meeting a lot of people, seeing thousands of different stories just to find strength in yourself to talk about this, to write about this. What should happen? What should happen for women, wherever they live geographically, started to ask for help in this? What do you think?
Well, first of all, I think that our responsibility as human beings is to look at ourselves truthfully. It is the most demanding quest that you'll ever be on as a human being, is to look within deep enough to understand how you function. Why you, Masha? Why me, Sophie? Why everybody listening right now? Why do you have the personality that you do? Why do you act and react to life, to others, and, you know, with the world in the way that you do? So the other thing is, especially in our circle of sorority, of solidarity and women coming together, we have to tell each other our stories. And we have been ingrained through religion, culture, you know, patriarchy, to be ashamed of our eroticism, our sensuality, our sexuality, our bodies, the way that they are without having to change anything. And the thing is that we come to life with these two very inherent universal needs. The first one is attachment, to be taken care of by a caregiver, by a parent, a mother, an auntie, a grandmother, depending on how you were raised, for the sole purpose of being loved, validated, and taken care of for your survival. We all come to this world with this need. And then the second one is authenticity. So authenticity means to be able to actually exude, and be who you are in your everyday life without having to change your behavior to please. Hello, we all do it. We all change our behavior, whether it's physically, psychologically, to please, because we want to be loved. Now, when as women, we live in a society where we are rewarded for self-betrayal, we live in quite a constrained environment where we no longer breathing well, and we are tired and anxious.
Thank you. So I agree with you. Now
I wish we didn't have to agree on this. You know what I mean? I wish it wasn't true, but it is.
Yeah, sure. I see the statistic right now about the eating disorder in Ukraine. So you can see, you can understand this, that this level of stress brought to the growth of these statistics. Actually, my problems returned back after 10 years of disappearing. So, and this topic is the most difficult for women to talk about. This topic is in the shadow. So you tell your story in the book, but I'm sure that after this conversation, a lot of women would love to buy it. It's been selling in Ukraine.
Yes, so Ukraine bought the rights to my book, and I have to say that when I learned this, I immediately cried, because I said, if my book can serve in an area of this world, your country that you love, where suffering is, you know, everyday reality in your everyday life, then if I can do my little part, then I bow to you as sisters, because we should be doing this together, right? In times of crises, whether it's in our own family systems or in our societies, we have to come closer together. But Masha, you just said something that I paid attention to, and I want to ask you. You said, you know, for 10 years or for many years, you were doing better with your eating disorder.
Yeah.
And in times of stress, it came back, right?
Yeah, of course, this kind of fear I have never felt in my life. Fear for my children, fear for rockets, bombs, and shelters. And I started to eat again, and then to feel bad from this, everything that we feel during these disorders. But I can see that it happens with my friends who never suffered from this, and they don't know what to do. So do you remember when it started in your life first?
Yeah, so let's talk about this. Yes, and I'll tell you my own story a little bit. This is very important. If you're a woman and you're listening and you have your sisters or your daughters or your mothers or your friends, this is so important for us to understand. The reason why your eating disorder came back during this stressful times is that when we hold trauma, and remember, it's not just something bad that happened to you, it's something that should have taken place that you didn't get as emotional nourishment in your childhood. And it doesn't have to be a screaming crisis, like there was sexual abuse or there was, you know, domestic violence. It could be that you wanted your father's attention and he couldn't give it to you. Or there were other siblings in the house that were taken away from that and you didn't get the attention and the validation that you needed. That you internalize. And in moments of stress and in moments of upset, whether it's in relationship, whether it's in a war-torn country, whether it's in, you know, all a stressful crisis at work or whatever it is, your body gets triggered again because your mind is wired. When I was young, I grew up in nature from 0 to 4 years old, and I had a very peaceful, I remember feeling peaceful in my soul, being able to talk with nature, the birds and the trees and the wind. And I was quite alone a lot because I was an only child. I did not have brothers or sisters. And then I remember, and my sensory body remembers the tensions between my parents, which I internalized because I wanted to save my father from his own addiction. And I lost my father 7 weeks ago.
Oh
so,
God,
you know,
sorry.
It's okay. Thank you.
Sorry.
I'm learning to become more intimate with life, even though I thought I was so intimate, through the spiritual bond of what it means to lose somebody. And this is just a natural death, but I can't imagine what it's like to face when it's an unnatural death and when it's caused by crises and war. And it's very traumatic. And it re-triggers any trauma that you already had stored in your body, because the body does keep the score of your trauma. This is Dr. Bester van der Kolk's work. So, excuse me for the bell. And so I'm just going to let that ring 1 second. Should I go and unhook the phone?
Excuse me for siren if it sounds.
No, I'm going to unhook it. This is funny. 1 second.
Okay.
Okay, unhooked. Okay, real life.
It's okay. It's life.
Exactly. So this is the lesson that we have to learn as women, as mothers, is that if we don't, and friends, if we don't look at our own trauma and what we didn't receive through our childhood, and if you think you had a perfect childhood, great. Usually it takes about 15 minutes, you know, to know where you're hurting and what you're carrying, because no childhood is perfect, because no human being or parent is perfect. So in order to look into ourselves and understand how we're triggered, for us, it's the food, it's the eating disorder. Eating disorders don't have much to do with food, to be honest. It's our drug of choice to numb our pain. When we eat a lot, we try to numb because it feels good in the moment. I'm free. I can take in anything I want and as much as I want, right? I'm not controlled by a society. I'm not controlled by a situation that is toxic or that is hard to live with. So then, and then we release because we had our hit, right, with the food. And then we release by purging. This is true for any form of addiction, whether it's a glass of wine, whether it's social media, whether it's constant, you know, relationship jumping from one relationship to another. We get our hit, and then there's a sense of release, but then the trauma keeps coming back because we're just putting the Band-Aid on our wound. So our responsibility is to look at that wound deeper. Now, in times of crisis, it's very difficult to say, oh, I'm already, you know, in alert mode in my brain, which is like the amygdala, which is a little almond-shaped space in your brains, which is your alert bell that tells you, do not cross the street if you're hearing the sound of war. Do not bring your kid to school because there's too much of a risk. Be careful because your husband or your partner or a family member is out there fighting for your own survival. This all triggers our alert mode, our amygdala in our brain. And what it does is that it sets us into chronic stress. Now, what happens when we're in chronic stress? We can become sick. Our psychological health takes a toll. Our immune system takes a toll. Our adrenal glands and endocrine system takes a toll. And all of this forms like the wellness of our lives, our innate wholeness, our wild wholeness. It is a complicated system, but when we see it through the scientific lens, and this is what I tried to do with my book, to explain to people in a very accessible way by interviewing the best experts, how do you look at your trauma? How can you heal from it? The questions that you can ask yourselves, and how human connection and relationships and emotional safety is key. And emotional safety right now, with what you're facing, is everything. This is why we told the teachers, let the kids play without structure. Not a structured game like where you have to put blocks on something, but play freely. Because when a mammal is sick, they stop playing, right? Mm-hmm. Same for humans. And us adults, we are playful. We're mammals, right? And we're playful in nature. So when we are in times of crisis and we stop playing, everything becomes all the time so serious and grave and difficult to carry, then we lose our lightness of being. Absolutely. And when we lose that innate, it's in our true nature, lightness and playfulness of being, then we go into the abyss. And when all systems have been tried, your fight, your flight, your freeze, especially in times of war, the body at some point will say, I can't take this anymore. And it goes into shutdown mode, and it goes into depression and whatever else you can think of.
Can a woman fix it? I mean, get out of this just by her own strengths, or she needs the help?
Great question. So I would say no. We are not meant to suffer in silence and in isolation. We are not meant to heal and to do that in isolation as well. You know, isolation, as you know, it can be a form of torture, right? And we are not meant as human beings. I mean, solitude is great, and you need to be able to go into yourself in silence and understand what's going on in your body. When I get stressed out, is it the fire in my belly? Is it my heart pumping like crazy? Do I get tremble? Like, am I trembling? Like, you do have to do that alone time, that solitude time of knowing what's happening within yourselves. But to share our story, to heal, to reset our nervous systems, there are tools that we can talk about that you can do in your own bedroom, in your kitchen, even at work, that can reset your nervous system. But you should not be doing that by yourself all the time. Collective work, relationships, being held by somebody for at least 30 seconds calms the nervous system. Talking eye to eye right now, Masha, like, if you only, like, this is fascinating what the science is telling us, because if you were very stressed right now, Masha, and that you were in your alert mode, if I had a neutral face on, let's say it looks like this, no, you could, whatever, you know what I mean, right? You could interpret, because you are stressed, my neutral face as aggressive. So think about the state of the world and what your country is going through. We're all little nervous systems trying to get reassurance from each other. And when we're torn by war, we get set off into alert modes that make us chronically stressed in ways that is almost unbearable for the mind, the body, and the heart too.
You're fantastic. You know, one thing is to read about you. Another thing is to read your book. And the absolutely magnificent thing is to talk to you, Sophie. You're absolutely fantastic. And you give the positive vibes. You are giving the absolutely sure that everything can be done. You can go through everything in this life. Of course not. Life is life. But people, women with your voice, are very, very important now, just to be so loud as you are. That's why for us it's very important to talk to you, to hear these things from you. And listening to you, I was thinking that I was reading that from other journalists who you cooperated with, people you spoke to, they all of them tell that you are a very empathic person, empathetic. And my therapist once told me, because I am the interviewer, I need to be like this. I feel people, I love people, I work for people for all my life. And my therapist once told me that empathy is both a gift and a curse. What does this mean for you?
Oh, wow. That's one of the most amazing questions I've ever gotten in 20 years of doing interviews. I love that, Masha.
Thank you.
So first of all, without curiosity, and we are curious as human beings, okay? Without curiosity and compassion, we will get nowhere, because it allows us to soften with ourselves, to know that we're worthy of silence, worthy of rest, worthy of slowing down, which is very difficult to do for us as women. We all know this. But it's our only way our bodies and our minds make sense of life. So if we're chronically in alert mode and in stress mode, feeling compassion, which is, feeling compassion, which means, oh, I'm sorry for what you're going through. But now let's bring it even further, like you just said, bringing it to empathy, which is actually your capacity to put yourself in another person's shoes. That is very difficult to do when you're chronically stressed. And I can tell you that in my own life, obviously, I've been through waves of stress and scrutiny and, feeling that I was going to lose it. And I still sometimes fall, and I'm like, how am I going to get from this one back up? I don't always know. And we're living with uncertainty in so many ways. And especially with what you're going through as women in your country, the uncertainty is something that the brain has very much a difficulty to deal with. So empathy is key here, because to feel empathy, you need to slow down. You need to slow down. You need to see things with a little bit more perspective, like a bird flying over a field. And it can hurt to see what you see. It can hurt to feel what you feel. But it's not dangerous. And the more you're willing to go there, the more you'll be able to affect your nervous system, your well-being, your capacity to love and to be compassionate and to be empathetic to yourself and to other people. And this tenderness that we hold in our innate nature as women, we've been taught to push it away in so many ways towards ourselves. We're really good at giving it to others, but we forget about ourselves. And that's where the real work begins. Yes? To reparent ourselves. Not to say that we had a bad mother and a bad father. That's not what I mean. But to become our best guiding, constant, loving, listening parent. This is our role. This is how we can offer it to ourselves, therefore, to be able to heal our world and our families and our environment in all the ways that we can. It is not easy work. I'm very aware of that. I fall flat on my face sometimes and I get back up. And I know that all of you listening, you're probably going through, similar things in your own life, but we cannot quit on each other. We cannot, because we're here in this world to shed the light and to rediscover that light that we all hold within. And when one of us sisters is in the darkness, we're going to hold the torch so that she can see better and that no woman is left behind, because when we leave women behind, we leave families behind, and we deserve better. So until my last breath, I will stand with you and I will walk with you so that we can see the light further and brighter.
I would love to give you a hug, Sophie.
Me too. This was my virtual hug. Yeah.
I'd love to. You call pain a necessary component of self-development.
Yes.
In your book. I can tell you a lot about the pain of women in Ukraine, but sometimes when I tell them, all my women audience, about my pains, they say they feel better, they feel more support. It works like this. When a woman, they follow the woman who is just the example of strength and beauty for them, of some success, she shows that she also has some disorders, some pains, some bad, very, very bad days. They understand that they're not alone. May I ask you to tell me about your pain for now?
So not too long ago, I have 2 teenagers and a 10-year-old. So there's pain in different ways that we're managing as a family and me as a mother. But, when I transformed my relationship, in which there is so much love still, but when I transformed my what we call marriage in our lives today, and for me, the whole world was looking, so it was a very difficult time to be making decisions. I had to take the perception of the world and throw it out the window, literally, in order to sit with my integrity and my coherence and to choose my authenticity over my attachment, to choose our authenticity as women over our attachment. It takes a lot of courage. It takes looking at that ring of fire and thinking, I'm going to get burned. I don't know what's on the other side. What the heck am I doing? We can do it. We can do it because when we feel the integrity inside of ourselves, it means that when we jump across that circle of fire, that on the other end and on the other side, it is much more softer than we think. Now, here's the thing, Masha, the pain, right? Pain is natural. Pain is not dangerous. Okay. Suffering is part of life. all the great religions, talk about this in different ways. And even, the pain of just being human, whether you believe in religion or not, it comes with what it means to be human. Like a roller coaster, and we learn how to take the waves and how to, take the peaks and take the lows. But the difference between pain and suffering and trauma is one thing: constriction, rigidity. Raina Maria Rilke wrote something that when I repeat to myself, and sometimes I teach yoga retreats and wellness retreats, and I say this to students. Well, I'm a student too, but to participants. And it says this: I want to unfold. I want to unfold. Let there be no space in me that holds itself closed. For where I am closed, I'm false. Where I am closed, I am false. As women right now, we need to be unfolding into our truths, because the falseness that we allow in our lives is making us sick. I have chills from the head to my toes again.
Myself also. Yeah.
Right? Because we face this, girls, women, every day, and younger, and we carry it as a toxic heritage that doesn't belong to us. Enough. It doesn't belong to us. And one of my other favorite quotes, maybe, that I could share with you is from the writer Clarissa Pinkola Estes, who wrote Women Who Run with Wolves. And it says, if you haven't been called a defiant, incorrigible woman yet, it's okay. There's still time. So we need to be defiant. We are rebellious, erotic, sensuous, courageous, fiery women who have been taught to tame it. Tame it, little girl. Don't be too fiery. Hold yourself like this. Behave like that. Change all of your appearance inside out to please society around you. I'm not buying it. And we've been buying at a very high price, because multi-million-dollar industry, if not billions, are making that money off of our backs in every level, not just cosmetics, but psychologically as well. And it's no more, because we're at an inflection point right now on the planet that if we need to adapt, not only to adapt to the crises that we're facing, but to heal from them, to transform from them, and to become a better civilization and humanity, we need to do this work. And it's not easy, which means that we have to have each other's hands, and we have to hold, and we have to enlarge the circle and make it the threads tighter, so that nobody feels that they're going to fall in between the holes of this big net that we're holding all together as women and mothers and allies. And I want to include all the boys and the men and the wise creatures in our lives in this equation, because without them, we're not going to complete what we want to do as the whole work. WHOLE.
So important words for girls, for women, for all the ages, I think. And so important words for Ukrainian women right now, Sophie. Thank you so very much for finding time for us, for this conversation. I'm sure it will help a lot of women, thousands of women. And my personal dream from now is to see you live and to hug you.
Let's make it happen.
And to feel this strength, this women powerful strength, in spite of absolutely different points on this earth. You are magnificent, and all the energy you give with your book, to all the women, I just want to say, don't stop. Please, don't.
Until my last breath. Until my last breath. And for my kids, for you, for everybody listening, heart to heart, sisters, heart to heart, always. We're going to walk together this path.
I can feel your heart. Thank you so much. Take care. And please come someday, after the victory, come someday to Ukraine. Thank you so
my goodness.
much. Yeah.
I wish you all the best, and we'll meet again. I know it.
Yeah, we're very strong. We are very strong women. Bye, Sophie. Thank you so
Bye.
much.